everyone, please welcome the 2023 American Academy of Nursing Living Legends. Janice Brewington. Pamela Cipriano. Martha Curley. Mary O'Neil Mundinger. Madeline Naegle. Adeline Nyamathi. And your hosts tonight, President of the Academy of Nursing, Ken White, and President-elect Linda Scott.
Good evening again. I'm delighted to be joined now by Dr. Linda Scott. Linda Scott, our Academy's President-elect, to help showcase the impressive milestones made by each of our living legends. Last night, we celebrated our journey over the last 50 years. Our founders envisioned the Academy as a beacon for thought leadership, to challenge ideas and practices, explore new ideas in nursing and other fields, and be a laboratory for innovation, all to improve the health of the public. This year's Living Legends honors our history. Their vision to challenge, explore, and innovate mirrors the creation of the Academy. Their work is to be celebrated and serve to inspire us all. From advancing the health of the public while also working to modernize nursing in an ever-changing climate, they envisioned change and made it happen. You will be awed to hear about the life's work of Doctors Janice Brewington, Pamela Cipriano, Martha Curley, Mary O'Neil Mundinger, Madeline Naegle, and Adeline Nyamathi.
The American Academy of Nursing's Living Legends designation is not simply given to a remarkable individual, but it is a lasting recognition that solidifies these incredible leaders as change agents. Living Legends have advanced healthcare equity in challenging times, innovated when a solution was needed, and just as critically, mentored other nurses to use their voice to transform the way care is delivered and received. Their contributions lay the critical groundwork for future studies, new technology, and creativity in the profession. Thank you again to our generous sponsors, Cedars-Sinai and the Columbia School of Nursing, yes, for helping to make this evening a memorable event for all.
The American Academy of Nursing created the Living Legends in 1994 to honor and recognize fellows who had made unique, outstanding, and long-lasting contributions to both the nursing profession and to society. And since then, and including tonight's designees, we have honored 142 distinguished individuals. Let us take a moment to recognize these living legends over the years. I would also like to pause and recognize Barbara Brody, Fanny Gaston Johansson, and Ruby Wilson, 3 living legends who died this past year. We honor all of the Academy living legends who have died. These leaders live on through those they mentored and the lives they touched. They have impacted lasting change, and we are grateful for their vision to advance the nursing profession. It is now time to recognize this evening's trailblazers for our profession.
It is my pleasure to introduce tonight's first 2023 Living Legend, Dr. Janice Brewington. Dr. Brewington is a pioneer within the profession. She has devoted her extraordinary career to building leadership capacity and champion diversity, equity, and inclusion. The mark of her impact has been demonstrated through tireless dedication, commitment, and a transformational mindset. From students to faculty, administrators, and executives, she has helped mentor countless careers, and in turn, those individuals have helped to shape healthcare for the better. Her passion for leadership development and cultivating talent for change has been a hallmark of her years of service to the profession. Currently, Dr. Brewington is the Chief Program Officer at the National League for Nursing and serves as the Director of NLN's Center for Transformational Research. In her role, she implements a year-long program designed for nurses in education and practice who have recently been challenged with rapid transition into leadership positions, those in leadership positions who desire a formal leadership program, and those emerging and aspiring to lead. Dr. Brewington also started the NLN Johnson & Johnson project for senior nursing students in historically Black colleges and universities, or HBCUs, schools of nursing, transitioning into clinical practice. President Biden once said, "Don't tell me what you value, show me your budget and I will tell you." Well, for Dr. Brewington, who has secured over $30 million in funding, yes, $30 million in funding for mentorship programs, it is clear what she values. Prior to joining NLN, Dr. Brewington honed her leadership skills in her various roles at the North Carolina Agriculture and Technical State, or NCA&T, University School of Nursing. She was the first nurse to serve as the Associate Vice Chancellor for the Institutional Planning, Assessment, and Research at this HBCU school. Later, as provost, she collaborated with the provost of the University of North Carolina at Greensboro to establish the first joint school for neuroscience and nanoengineering. Dr. Brewington is an innovator committed to designing and implementing impactful programs. While at NCA&T, she launched the Health Outreach Project, an innovative interdisciplinary university-wide student community service program designed to be a catalyst for strengthening relationships between the university and the Black community. Over 600 students donated more than 15,000 volunteer hours for the project. Another accomplishment for Dr. Brewington was establishing a community-based health promotion and prevention service for elderly African Americans through an interdisciplinary clinic in a Black church. She also led the establishment of the Family Life Empowerment Center for the prevention of violence and drug abuse among African American families. Dr. Brewington has received many major awards and recognitions, including the Cone Health System Board of Trustees Leadership Award, the United Way of Greater Greensboro Board of Directors Exemplary Service Award, and the ANA Ethnic Racial Minority Fellowship Award. Let us hear more of her incredible efforts from one of Janice's sponsors.
There are few people who understand leadership and how to put it in bite sizes that others can chew on and really engage in. I think when we're young, many of us want to be leaders, we have no idea where the door is. Janice Brewington says, this is the door. Now you turn the knob to the right and you open the door slowly and then you stroll through. She gives such clear directions and information and guidance and mentoring for how to become a leader. And she's been doing that forever. And I don't mean forever, ever. I mean since early in her career. This is who she is. She is leadership. I don't think there's any stronger influence that one can have than to develop other leaders. Leaders are not necessarily born, they are mentored. And that excellence in mentoring that Janice has, and not just for her personal mentoring, but to help others who are mentors understand how to mentor, that ability to create leaders, my goodness, how powerful is that for nursing? Dr. Brewington, right, has a way of encouraging you on your darkest day. She notices your accomplishments. She notices your despair. And she says, are you going to stay in that despair, or are you going to acknowledge the fact that you have another opportunity to make a difference? And my goodness, aren't you impressive? She will say things like that. And I find that highly inspiring. I find her to be full of joy. I love her joy. She has a lot of joy. And she's not a bad dancer either. So all of that rhythm and movement and joy and love for other people gets put in a package of intelligence and brilliance and evidence around leadership, and I think it is phenomenal for someone to have all of those gifts in one. We were walking across campus one day, and there were these young students who were behaving a little bit inappropriately, and Janice called them over and said, colleagues, and this is not appropriate. This is not acceptable. You're more than that. Step up to your role as a student here at North Carolina A&T State University and be who you are as nursing students. My goodness, it was better than grabbing them by the collar. It was a way of encouraging them and acknowledging not just who they were, but who they represented and who they were to become. And as nurses, we represent so much more than ourselves. I stand in awe of Dr. Brewington, and I know I'm not easily impressed. She has captured the hearts of so many, not just young people, but individual nurses who want to be leaders. And she has drawn out the pathway. And she has encouraged them, and she has praised them, and she has every now and then said, that's not good enough. And I have seen her do it again and again and again throughout her career, over the years, building a leadership program, and not just that she does, but teaching others how to do it. I am just so impressed with her gifts that she has given to nursing. And when you give a gift to nursing colleagues, you give a gift to the people we serve, to the patients. You give a gift to the world. There's something heroic about the woman. And I don't think all of us reach that top. Even those of us who've been named living legends, sometimes we don't reach that top, like me. I just think she's incredible. And I'm honored to be nominating her and honored to be her colleague and her friend.
Colleagues, please join me in welcoming Dr. Janice Brewington to the podium.
I am overjoyed and I am full. There are two things that I have to remember. One is that I can't cry because I paid too much for this makeup done. And the second is I can't go over my time so that they won't do like the Academy Awards where they play the music and then they escort you off the stage. Now, a living legend would not want that to happen, right? Good evening. I am honored and elated to be here for this memorable occasion, along with the other esteemed honorees. This is indeed the highlight of my life and my career journey. I would like to thank President Dr. Kenneth White, the Board of Directors, CEO, Dr. Suzanne Miyamoto, and the Selection Committee for this prestigious recognition as a living legend. I am forever thankful for my sponsors, Dr. Beverly Malone, Dr. Diane Billings, and Dr. Marilyn Orman for their support and for believing in me. Drs. Billings and Orman could not be here tonight, but they are here in spirit. Dr. Malone, please stand. Thank you so much. I owe tremendous gratitude to my husband and friend, Dr. Thomas Brewington. Please stand. My children and grandchildren and other family members, friends, please stand. They are my foundation, my rock, and my support. When I was growing up, my grandmother always said to me, "Gal, get your education, but always make sure you make a difference in someone else's life." So this is my calling, and I'm clear about this. Throughout my life, I have stood on the broad, strong shoulders of courageous giants and mentors who have made a difference and changed lives throughout the world. One of the domains of the International Society for Professional Identity in Nursing is nurse as leaders. We have a responsibility to prepare students, faculty, and nurses in practice to take up their authority to lead and to own their authority in their roles because we have critical work to do. A dear friend of mine and colleague, Brother Ignatius Perkins, shared 4 words with me: bearer of the light, bearer of the light. We are all bearers of the light to mitigate structural racism and promote social justice, diversity, equity, and inclusion. We are bearers of the light to ensure that equitable health care is provided to patients, families, communities, and populations. We are bearers of the light to address policies that impact the scope of practice for APRNs to ensure greater access to health care in underserved communities. We are bearers of the light to be change agents at all levels of the healthcare system. So as I close, I invite you to do what my grandmother said. Make a difference in someone else's life and continue to take up your authority in your roles to lead with courage, integrity, and action. because, as Robert Frost says, we have miles to go before we sleep. Miles to go before we sleep. Thank you.
Our next living legend this evening is Dr. Pamela Cipriano. Dr. Cipriano is known nationally and internationally for her influence and advocacy to raise the voice, visibility, and stature of nurses. Her experience, gained through multiple leadership roles at every level, has ushered in transformational change and elevated the position of nurses in every community. She's a consummate professional whose compassion and servant leadership style has positively impacted healthcare delivery, policy development, and promotion of health worldwide. From staff nurse, clinical specialist, manager, director, chief nurse executive, chief clinical officer, chief operating officer, to professor and dean, Dr. Cipriano knows what the profession needs and actively works to achieve it. Dr. Cipriano currently serves as the 29th president of the International Council of Nurses, or ICN. That's huge. As well as a professor at the University of Virginia School of Nursing and the Batten School of Leadership and Public Policy. In her role at ICN, Dr. Cipriano advocates for the health and well-being of the world's 28 million nurses, as well as global health security. She serves on the Universal Healthcare 2030 Task Force, which has authored an action agenda for high-level political commitments at the United Nations for improving health access for all people. She has addressed the World Health Organization on workforce lessons learned from COVID-19 and the United Nations stakeholder meeting on pandemic prevention, preparedness, and recovery. Her passion and commitment to advocacy led to her election as the 36th president of the American Nurses Association, where she raised the profile and recognition of nurses. During the Ebola epidemic from 2014 to 16, she spoke out on the protection of nurses, healthcare workers, and patients, and advocated for evidence-based public health approaches to prevent transmission of the virus. She was a frequent presence in national media, providing evidence-based information to restore public trust, and she's always as cool as a cucumber. Dr. Cipriano was an early champion of nurse well-being and resiliency. As president of ANA, the organization's grand challenge, Healthy Nurse, Healthy Nation, was launched to improve nurses' health and the health of our nation. This included advocating for policies for safe staffing and eliminating workplace violence. She also became an inaugural member of the steering committee for the National Academy of Medicine's Action Collaborative on Clinician Wellbeing and Resilience, which to this day is still advancing the national plan for healthcare workforce well-being to support and sustain a healthy workforce. Dr. Cipriano's numerous awards and honors recognize her commitment to the profession, including the Academy's Healthcare Leader Award and the Daisy Foundation's Lifetime Achievement Award. I even once gave her a Beta Kappa chapter of Sigma Leadership Award when I was at the University of Virginia. That wasn't there, but I wanted to add it because it's important. She was the 2010 Distinguished Nurse Scholar in Residence at the National Academy of Medicine. Dr. Cipriano was the first nurse to receive the Distinguished Alumni Award from the University of Utah and was named alumna summa laude dignatus by the University of Washington, their highest honor. Let us hear more of her invaluable contributions from one of Pam's sponsors.
So I knew Pam first as a fellow chief nursing officer. We were both in our roles as CNOs and SVPs, and we were very interested in the culture of safety and creating a practice environment that really valued inclusivity, diversity, person-centered care, and the principles of high reliability organizations. So as soon as we met, we hit it off, and we've been friends and colleagues since then. Fortunately for me, she probably feels the same way, but I have really looked up to Pam in so many ways. It's just been great. She's extremely effective in really living and leading. She started leadership when she was an undergraduate student, became chair or the leader of the Student Nurses Association while she was an undergraduate. And then she never stopped. She has stepped forward as a nurse, as a leader, as a practice executive, as an academic leader, as a policy leader in regions, in our nation, and now globally as president of ICN. She is just an unstoppable force of nature, and one who always carries kindness, respect, courage, fierceness, but always inclusive and effective, highly effective leader. You know, Pam and I spent many hours together, particularly when she was the ANA president and I was the ANCC president. And so we were in rooms together a lot. We traveled together a lot. And I began to know her in ways that I hadn't known her prior to that. And she is just a fun-loving and caring person to be with. I can remember being at her in LA in Disneyland, one night. My husband and I were out, and she said, let's go over and do Harry Potter. And, for someone so accomplished and so always poised and professional, here we were sitting in a tram going down the Harry Potter exhibit. And, she's just her commitment to her daughters, her husband, her family. Yeah, Pam is just somebody that I really like to be with and like to have fun with and learn from and and see in action. She's just wonderful. In terms of why she is a living legend, and I'm so pleased that others saw what we saw in Pam, Jan and Nancy and I, and so many see in her. And that is, she strives for assuring excellence in what we do every day as nurses. And she doesn't stop. She could have sort of kicked back, if you will, a number of times and not gone after this role and that role. And a lot of the roles she has taken on are voluntary roles. And I know she loves having impact and leading and collaborating, but it's a lot of work. And she's just energetic. She has so much more to do. I know she does. She wants to do even more than she has. And because of that commitment, unending, consistent, and excellence. I mean, she is exemplary. She's an exemplary nurse and leader. And she's advanced policy. She's conducted research. She's implemented major changes in practice settings, in academic settings, and she's disseminated her work through public speaking, through writing, and more. And so, to me, she has been a living legend for quite some time, and certainly deserves this award from the Academy. I'm very, very, very pleased.
I would like to add that Pam has been a trusted colleague, mentor, and friend to me, and I am grateful for that. Pam, please come to the podium.
I am so thankful for this incredible honor. Thank you, Ken, Linda, all of the Academy, and kudos to all of the previous living legends that have come before me. And I'm so proud to be able to count many of you among my friends and colleagues. I want to thank my sponsors. You just heard from Pat Reed-Ponte and Jan Belek and Nancy Woods, who could not be here tonight. Nursing has been really good to me. I've had some great experiences. And as a diploma student, I really figured out that I was going to have to push the edge of the envelope for everything I wanted to do. So those of you that can relate to diploma education many years ago. And that first test was when I became the president of the National Student Nurses Association. And I had to ask for time off from class and clinical. And I wasn't on my deathbed. So it was pretty amazing that I was able to miss class. My yearbook picture shows me sort of leaning back at my desk, and the caption is, "Do nursing students have rights? You bet they do." So I knew early on that professional involvement was always going to be a part of my life, and I was so fortunate to be mentored and be surrounded by the giants in nursing and by the emerging leaders who became my peers as well. I have too many role models to mention, including Barbara Nichols, who tried to tell me the best way to give a speech. I'm not sure I learned it all, Barbara, because no one can match what you're able to do. But I'd also like to thank my original Academy sponsors, who are also living legends, Dr. Norma Lang and the late Dr. Juanita Fleming, because they always encouraged me. Along the way, I learned the importance of advocacy. As a young nurse, I learned through collective bargaining the need to protect the right to control our practice and fight for fair working conditions and representation. As a clinical nurse specialist and a nurse executive and hospital executive, I learned I absolutely had to stand my ground for the resources that nurses needed, especially when my bosses didn't value nursing and only valued the bottom line. The opportunity that I had to advocate for nurses, though, and be a champion was central to my role as the ANA president. And I want to thank the two individuals in the audience who were behind the scenes, who encouraged me to run for election, and they are Becky Patton and Marguerite Zalon, who are with us tonight as well. So I had the unique opportunity to represent the voice and experience of nurses across this nation and speak out and speak up to help raise the profile of nurses. And fortunately, that became a very natural thing because I was always frustrated when nurses were left out and overlooked. And unfortunately, that is still happening today in many of the circles that we operate in. I had a slide that I put in my presentations that said, if you're in a discussion with other people that are making decisions about healthcare, look to your left, look to your right, and if there's not a nurse in your view, you are missing one of the most critical inputs that you need to have. Now, all of us know we don't make these journeys by ourselves. So I want to certainly start by thanking my family. So my husband, Dr. Ron Turner, who was the flexible parent. He made sure there was always somebody there to take care of our kids and make sure they got into timeout appropriately and home from school, but also made it so that I could participate. Also, I wanted to make sure that I noted to him so that he knows I appreciate him. He probably had no idea what he signed up for when we got married. Okay. My two daughters are here with me today, and I'm not sure they ever truly understood what I did when they were little. And my older daughter, I'll never forget, I did one of those take your daughter to work days when that was just starting, and I was in one of my big administrative roles. And after a day of meetings, we came home and she said, "Mom, I don't know what it is you do, but I don't ever want to do it." I don't know if you remember that. And my younger daughter, Lydia, actually got a sampling of how exciting professional association work is because she was a volunteer in my ANA presidential campaign. Essentially, I have always been idealistic about nursing. I've been cautioned that I've been too idealistic. But I believe nurses need to occupy the highest roles in leading change in the healthcare system, as I believe many of you agree as well. So I've seen my purpose as a leader to make sure that I create the possibilities for action, not just for me, but for every nurse and for every place where nurses practice, and also to protect and promote the status and voice of nurses. I've been willing to confront misguided decisions or address disrespectful behavior of nurses. And I will never forget, as a new graduate, one of the most egregious things at the time was a really obnoxious surgeon who wrote in a patient's record, it was all written by hand, "Give patient pajama bottoms." And it's like, okay, buddy, you've met your match here. I will not tolerate directing nurses to do something in such a demeaning way. And that was just the start. I feel fortunate that I've been able to bring real issues to the forefront nationally and now internationally to help nurses make their greatest contributions. So I am so pleased and will humbly accept this honor with the commitment to continue to promote the importance, value, and well-being of nurses. Because we know without nurses, there is no health or health care. So I will continue to do all I can to be sure nurses are here tomorrow in every setting for all of us, because the fate of the world's people rests with every nurse. Thank you.
Next, I have the honor to recognize Dr. Martha Curley as a living legend. Dr. Curley is a visionary and globally recognized leader in advancing the health and wellness of the pediatric community. Her profound impact is demonstrated through her significant contributions to multiple domains. Dr. Curley's novel work has strengthened nursing, science, and united clinical and academic health professionals across disciplines, organizations, and national borders. Her influence on the next generation of clinical scientists reverberates worldwide as her unique and progressive record of interprofessional mentorships and steadfast support of junior faculty and new investigators continues to grow. Dr. Curley is a professor of nursing at the University of Pennsylvania School of Nursing and also serves as the Ruth M. Colquette Endowed Chair in Pediatric Nursing Science at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. Her substantial accomplishments as an international leader in pediatric critical care research has transformed the delivery of care for critically ill children and forever changed the scope of pediatric nursing and nursing science on a global scale. She has led numerous multi-site clinical trials funded by multiple branches of the National Institutes of Health. Dr. Curley's findings have established the first ever pediatric validated instruments for assessing patient status and health risks, provided evidence to support nurse-led interventions that meet essential child and family needs in the pediatric intensive care unit, and demonstrated standards of care and practice guidelines for critically ill pediatric patients and their families. As the first pediatric nurse selected to chair the American Association of Critical Care Nurses Certification Board, Dr. Curley's leadership was instrumental in delivering the innovative Synergy model, which aligned nurse competencies with patient needs. Her landmark 2007 book, Synergy, The Unique Relationship Between Nurses and Patients, powerfully illustrated that synergy tenets could be applied universally. With over $38 million in federal research grants as an investigator and another $38 million serving as a co-investigator, Dr. Curley has truly transformed the care of children with critical illness. Through her collaborative research style, providers worldwide have access to the critical tools such as the Braden QD scale for predicting pressure ulcers and the state behavioral scale for sedation of infants and young children on mechanical ventilators. Dr. Curley also developed the individualized numeric rating scale to assess pain levels in children with severe intellectual disabilities who cannot speak. Her groundbreaking work, combined with her passion for precision-based, personalized interventions, calls attention to the importance of clinical nursing practice at its best. Dr. Curley has been honored for her work and contributes her expertise to many organizations and causes. She is a member of the National Academy of Medicine, a founding member of the Pediatric Acute Lung Injury and Sepsis Investigator Network, and a recipient of major awards from the Society of Critical Medicine for her extensive involvement in the practice and science of critical care. Let us now hear more of her sizable impact from one of Martha's sponsors.
The world of pediatric nurses is not large. In the 1980s, through my position at Children's National Hospital in Washington, D.C., I knew of the exceptional leaders in pivotal programs at other children's hospitals, including Boston Children's, where Dr. Curley was a clinical specialist. Then later in the 80s, we did a consultation with Boston Children's where I learned more about her excellence and the work that she was doing at Boston Children's. The bottom line, and enough cannot be said about this, is her commitment to nurses in advancing the practice of nursing. She has led the profession and leadership in scientific and clinical impact, and everything that she has done is building and demonstrating the strengths and the effect nursing practice has on the outcomes of children and their families. Dr. Curley's research is from changing clinical practice at the bedside to expanding it to families and, importantly, moving it into following up with these children and knowing and improving the outcomes once they are discharged from the hospital. Dr. Curley, Martha, has inspired me by her generosity in developing the next generations of care providers across disciplines, assuring the dissemination and translation of new practice knowledge around the world. Her impact on science and practice of nursing in the care of children and families cannot be overstated. I don't have one story, but a series of conversations with Martha over the years, and each time I have a conversation with her, it reinforces her commitment to change nursing practice to improve lives of patients, of children and families, but also of nurses, which is an extremely important grounding. Our first encounter was, I believe, at an early Society for Pediatric Nursing meeting. That organization is now in its 30th year. So that would be the timeline. And when I had my first conversation with Martha, and from that moment forward, I have been so impressed with all that she has done and her bottom line of everything she does is for the right reason, for advancing care and advancing nursing. Martha Curley is among a rare group of nurse leaders who have significantly contributed to multiple domains, from practice, academia, the founding of professional national and international organizations. Her innovative research and leadership has strengthened nursing science and elevated the role of the nurse in healthcare. She has made it extremely clear that nurses have a direct impact on the outcomes of patients and families. She has united clinical and academic health professionals across disciplines, organizations, and across national boundaries. She describes her career as a nurse's nurse. Advancing the profession makes her worthy of this honor. Her influence of the next generation of clinical scientists is profound, as she is recognized worldwide for her unique and progressive record of interdisciplinary mentorship and steadfast support of junior faculty and scientists. She has had sustained and will continue to have impact, and the importance and significance of this cannot be overstated. Her global dissemination of her work is immeasurable. It has been a career privilege to be part of this recognition of the career of Dr. Curley.
Please join me in welcoming Dr. Martha Curley to the podium.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. This has been completely amazing. This nomination and this designation has fundamentally brought me so much joy. I'd like to start by congratulating the other designees who joined me on this stage tonight. I'm really, truly humbled to be in your presence. Your work has been simply stellar, and congratulations. I'd like to start by thanking those who brought my nomination forward. Dr. Sandy Stavetsky, my mentee, you were the instigator. You're the one that started the whole thing out. Dr. McCabe, Feedham, and Miles, the three of you led the charge. Dr. Mathay, my clinical trialist mentor, our dean, thank you so much. Pat Maloney-Harmon and Dr. Pam Hines, who couldn't join us tonight. You were all instrumental in bringing this nomination forward, so I thank you so very much. I've been extremely fortunate in my life, and for all of what I've received, I'm truly grateful. I'm grateful to my father, Angelo Quattrano, who required that as a senior in high school that I become self-sufficient before I married the love of my life, Jack Curley. I chose nursing because I could do it in 3 years, not 4. I'm grateful to my mother, who is and has always been my hero. She was the first feminist I knew. She came from a long line of strong Watson women, some of them who are here tonight. Thank you. My mom was a trailblazer. She was the first married woman to enter into Springfield Hospital School of Nursing. She contaminated all of the students at that time, but she graduated first in her class. I'm grateful to my much better half, And those who know my husband know he is definitely my much better half, and my family. We were married in 1973, a week after I graduated from nursing school. We celebrated 50 years of marriage this past June with our sons. Joe and Paul, our daughter-in-laws, Ryan and Danny, and our 4 beautiful grandchildren, Vivienne, Claire, Jack, and Paul John, and yes, they call me Nani. This nomination has really helped me reflect on my 50 years as a nurse. Each decade has been layered on the previous, and it's always centered on calling attention to the work of nursing, building the evidence to support the practice of nursing, but specifically pediatric nursing, and linking what we do, the nursing care that we provide, to patient and family outcomes that make a difference in their lives. Upon reflection by decade, the first decade of my practice was learning about that kids were just not small adults, that peds critical care was very different than adult critical care, and that families were not visitors within the pediatric intensive care unit. In the second decade, I finished my bachelor's and my master's degrees at UMass Amherst, and Sheridan hooked me on the science of nursing, mentoring me through my first honors thesis. It was on T-piece pressure waveforms in pediatric critical care. At Yale, Marge Miles mentored me through my thesis that tested a nursing intervention that could be done to decrease parent stress in the pediatric intensive care unit. Upon graduation, we moved to Boston. We had to lie to my father that we were moving because my husband got transferred because Italians don't move for the wives in the family. We moved to Boston, where for the next 20 years, as a clinical nurse specialist, I had the sheer pleasure of practicing in nirvana. And it was an absolute nirvana. The nursing staffs at Boston Children's Hospital were stellar. Their professional practice model was well steeped in the work of Dr. Patricia Benner, and the practice was truly amazing. In the third decade, I was fortunate enough to become AACN Certification Board of Directors Chair. We built the synergy model. Thank you. We built the synergy model to better articulate the relationship that critical care nurses had to patient outcomes. We wrote the first and second edition of Critical Care Nursing of Infants and Children. We built the Braden-Q scale for risk prediction measure of pressure ulcers in pediatrics. And then at that time, I was fortunate enough to enter into Boston College PhD program, where I was mentored by the giants in the field. Mary Duffy, thank you. Mary Duffy mentored me through my dissertation, kicking and screaming, I should say, on clinical predictors of weaning kids from mechanical ventilation. Post-PhD became the birth of all the clinical trials. We launched the first clinical trial, a 7-center trial on pediatric prone positioning. In the fourth decade, we modeled parent presence during invasive procedures and resuscitation. We continued to build instruments to allow nurses the opportunity to adequately manage pediatric pain, sedation, and iatrogenic withdrawal syndrome. And we called attention to the invisible nature of the practice that we were providing by publishing our Nightingale metric work. Together with physician scientists, we formed the Policing Network so that we could have an intellectual home for pediatric clinically based researchers. Midway through that decade, I moved to Penn to help build nursing science at the PhD level. Soon after, we launched the 30-center RESTORE clinical trial that tested nurse-led sedation within the pediatric intensive care unit. In the fifth decade, we launched the 55-site international prospect clinical trial testing prone positioning, again with high-frequency oscillatory ventilation in children with acute respiratory failure. We're re-envisioning the pediatric intensive care unit from a pretty toxic environment to hopefully one that's more healing. We acknowledge that significant progress had been made over 4 decades on mortality, and we refocused our energies into post-intensive care syndrome, articulating a framework, and we're just now completing enrollment in the 30-site prospective cohort study that will articulate what PICS-P looks like in pediatrics. And at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, we are designing and we're implementing nurse unit metrics, unit dashboards, so that we could better support precision nursing within our field. So based on this reflection, I hope you can see that I'm not standing here alone. There are many people who along the way have partnered with all of this work. Over these 5 decades, my research questions have always followed the patient and family's lead. They've evolved in complexity and scope, trying to give voice to nursing. AECN was an early stimulator of that voice, and I thank that organization. I've come to realize that complex clinical problems require interprofessional investigation. Respecting interprofessional practice, nurses need to own their own nursing practice and the science that supports it. If we don't own it, others will own it without a nursing license. As a pediatric critical care nurse, I would be remiss without acknowledging the toll the pandemic has had on acute and critical care nursing. Our nation's workforce within hospitals are struggling with this new post-pandemic normal. We in the Academy have an obligation to help these nurses sustain their enchantment with the practice of nursing and help them by delivering new evidence-based models of care. In closing, I believe in nursing because over time I've come to know nursing in many of its intimate places. Nursing is about caring relationships that facilitate healing, and there's no better profession in the world. I'd like to thank my mentors, my research collaborators, my mentees and research teams, my Penn colleagues, even more precious when you find supportive friends and colleagues at the tail end of your career, and to the parents who, under unbelievable circumstances, consent for their children to participate in clinical research studies. To my family, I love you. To my colleagues, thank you for this recognition for a career well lived. Thank you.
Congratulations. Beautiful. Let's have a photo. Our next Academy Living Legend to be honored this evening is Dr. Mary O'Neil Mundinger. Dr. Mundinger is a vanguard within the profession for her impact on nursing education, research, practice, and healthcare policy. Her ability to innovate, generate, and advocate to improve the health and wellness of the public can be seen over her storied career. She has been an early champion, leader, and researcher who has demonstrated to the public that care provided by advanced practice registered nurses makes a marked difference in every community. From early on in her career, Dr. Mundinger recognized the critical link between nurses' expanded practice authority and the opportunity to provide more equitable care to all. Her seminal publications include Home Care Controversy, Too Little, Too Late, Too Costly, and Autonomy in Nursing. She published the first randomized trial comparing nurse practitioner and physician practices in the Journal of the American Medical Association. This pioneering publication demonstrated the health outcomes of patients receiving care from nurse practitioners were equivalent to those being treated by physicians, which paved the way for policy change. Building off this work, Dr. Mundinger founded the Columbia Advanced Practice Nurse Associates, the first nursing school faculty practice where nurse practitioners held commercial managed care contracts and were compensated at the same rate as primary care physicians. And a personal side note, she was featured over 20 years ago, I believe now. She was featured on 60 Minutes, and the segment was called "The Nurse Will See You Now." And I was so moved and taken by that I showed it to every single class that I taught, and still do show that clip. So thank you. Dr. Mundinger is the Edward M. Kennedy Professor of Health Policy and Dean Emeritus of Columbia University School of Nursing. During her 25 years of service as Dean, Dr. Mundinger launched its Doctor of Nursing Practice program in 2004, the first of its kind to be a new terminal degree for nurse practitioners. She established the Council for the Advancement of Comprehensive Care, a group consisting of deans, health policy experts, and leaders that formulated standards and advocated nationally for the new doctoral degree. Today, there are over 400 D&P programs offered by U.S. nursing schools. During the same time, she started the school's first externally funded research program, which grew in size and scope until the school had the nation's highest NIH funding per capita. That's quite an accomplishment. Dr. Mundinger has also dedicated her career to championing the voice of the profession in key policy decisions at the national level. As a recognized health policy expert, primarily known for her work on workforce issues and primary care, she served as a Robert Wood Johnson Health Policy Fellow in the office of Senator Edward Kennedy. Later, she would go on to provide her expert lens to White House National Steering Committee on Health and Special Medical Advisory Group to the Department of Veterans Affairs, both under the Clinton administration. Dr. Mundinger's service and leadership is recognized in multiple healthcare circles. She's an elected member of the National Academy of Medicine and the New York Academy of Medicine. She also served on the board of large healthcare companies such as United Health Group and Welch Allyn, where she elevated the voice of nursing. Let's hear from one of Mary's sponsors about her many successes.
Mary's first award-winning book was called Autonomy in Nursing, and this came from her dissertation research. And throughout her career, Mary has raised the visibility of both nursing and advanced practice nursing through her research, through her advocacy, through her education. And we really connected around this particular goal because the reason she did her work is the same reason that I do my informatics research, because I feel very much about the important contribution that nurses and advanced practice nurses make to patient to healthcare outcomes across settings. I've also been very inspired by her ability to work across the levels of the healthcare ecosystem, from very locally to the policy level. And the other thing that, and this is true, brought out by her co-nominators for the award, Michael Carter and Bobby Berkowitz, one of the hallmarks of Mary's thinking is always the boldness of her ideas. And that's been very inspiring to me, to be bold in what I've wanted to do in my career. Yeah, one of the things that makes Mary such an extraordinary role model is really her passion and her ability to stay the course despite challenges and opposition along the way. Another hallmark of what Mary has done has really been being an interprofessional collaborator. So really being able to work closely with medical colleagues, which is really essential to being able to get this new level of advanced practice nurse into the healthcare system. Mary has advanced the profession of nursing and contributed to and influenced nursing and healthcare in many ways. She conducted a landmark randomized controlled trial that really compared nurse practitioners with additional training and the same authority as primary care physicians in terms of admitting privileges to hospitals and that kind of thing. And in that particular trial, which was published in JAMA, this randomized controlled study demonstrated that that nurse practitioners and primary care physicians had similar outcomes in terms of looking at cost and quality and also patient satisfaction with care. She established the Columbia Advanced Practice Nurse Associates, and this was very unusual practice. It was the first practice in which the major insurers reimbursed the nurse practitioners in the clinic at the same level that they reimbursed physicians for the similar type of services. When she was appointed the dean of the Columbia School of Nursing in 1986, she was really brought in to close it down. And she didn't do that. Instead of closing it down, she revitalized it and, did the work that's led it to, the powerhouse that it is today in terms of clinical practice, education, and also research. She was an amazing fundraiser, raised the funds that enabled the building of the new building this lovely building that I'm sitting in today. Why does Mary deserve to be a living legend? I honestly can't say it than her co-nominator, living legend, Bobby Berkowitz, who followed Mary as a dean of the Columbia School of Nursing. What Bobby wrote in her nomination was that Mary Mundinger's career has always reached beyond the traditional boundaries to issues of polity and policy, and her efforts will have a lasting impact in establishing new frontiers for nursing and a better future for healthcare by championing advanced practice nursing nationally, undertaking trailblazing research, pioneering an expanded role for nurses that emphasizes their professional autonomy and crucial importance in providing comprehensive care, and creating a new clinical doctorate that's been widely emulated at universities around the country. Dr. Mundinger has proven herself deserving of AAN's Living Legend Award.
Please join me in welcoming Dr. Mundinger to the podium.
Good evening. It's been 40 years since we began the pathway to develop the Doctor of Nursing Practice clinical degree. We didn't know what we were doing at the beginning. What we knew we were doing was building an advanced clinical practice program. And we did it with medical partnership. We did that from the very beginning. We built the Columbia Association for Comprehensive Care with the medical school. We carried out the first randomized clinical trial comparing physicians and nurses in primary care together. We published with the Journal of American Medical Association our findings. We worked with the National Board of Medical Examiners to put together an exam which would test nurses at the same level of competence as the MD licensing exam, and that was developed and tested. There are some of the people who passed that exam here tonight. And the Doctor of Nursing Practice really was the culmination of 10 years of very careful, scientific, step-by-step activities. It wasn't just an idea that we had and filled in the blanks later. The blanks were filled in before we put the Doctor of Nursing Practice designation on this new level of practice. The other thing I want you to know, that we had several other schools in the Council for the Advancement of Clinical Care that joined us in this, but there were two schools in particular, University of Tennessee at Memphis with Michael Carter as the dean, and Pat Stark at the University of Texas Health Science Center, who were the pioneers along with Columbia. And if any of you are from those schools there tonight, and if Pat Stark is here, please take my thanks and congratulations from everyone who's here who helped make that happen. There were three pioneers in particular at Columbia who are here tonight that made this happen in the real time. One is Jan Smolowitz, whose practice in the Department of Neurology led to the eminent head of that department using her as a consultant along the way. Joyce Anastasi, who was one of the first earliest nurse researchers in AIDS research and continues to be an eminent researcher. And Marlene McHugh, who is probably the most exquisite example of the doctor of nursing practice in terms of taking care of very extremely ill patients in the hospital. So they're all here tonight, too. It's my great pride that this Doctor of Nursing Practice in Clinical Care has been the product of step-by-step scientific evaluation and proof, if you will, that nurses are capable of carrying on the very high-level clinical activities they do in the outpatient area and the inpatient area. And I want to tell you how proud I am to be part of that footprint in the pathway of nursing science and nursing practice. So thank you very much.
Next to recognize as a living legend of the American Academy of Nursing is Dr. Madeline Naegle. Dr. Naegle is internationally recognized for her unwavering efforts to improve the health and wellness of individuals with mental health needs. She understands the unique relationship nurses have with their patients, and that nursing science is a key driver in not only improving quality of life, but saving lives. Her advocacy for highly stigmatized populations focuses on well-being and holistic health, hallmarks of her career. Dr. Naegle has profoundly influenced psychiatric mental health nursing practice by advancing addictions nursing, now a recognized subspecialty. Early on in her nearly 60-year career as a nurse at New York's Payne Whitney Clinic, Dr. Naegle saw firsthand the pressing need to improve treatment for individuals experiencing mental health disorders. At the same time, she knew that change would not occur without enhancing the education nurses received. Notably, she championed the integration of behavioral health, including substance use disorders, into health profession education and practice to promote evidence-based care for persons with severe substance use and other mental health disorders. She spearheaded the creation of the Substance Abuse Education in Nursing Project, a model curriculum widely used by nursing schools, and she launched the Substance Abuse Research Education and Training Program developed for health professions, professionals pursuing research and careers in the field. One of Dr. Naegle's earlier publications, a seminal monograph, Addictions and Psychological Dysfunctions, The Profession's Response, is yet another example of her commitment to steer policies and practices that prioritize treatment and prevention in the U.S. and the nursing community worldwide. She acted strategically to move addictions nursing to the mainstream by strengthening education, promoting advanced practice, building credibility through certification, and serving as the founding editor of the Journal of Addictions Nursing. Dr. Naegle is Professor Emerita at New York University's Roy Myers College of Nursing. As founding deputy director of NYU's World Health Organization Collaborating Center for Gerontological Nursing Education, she implemented educational programs, disseminated best practices, and expanded recognition of key competencies in mental health and the care of older adults in several countries. As a psychotherapist and global mental health consultant, her pioneering work is widely circulated in peer-reviewed journals, policy statements, and book chapters, and continues to positively impact mental health care practice around the world. An enduring example of her work globally is the Spanish translation of baccalaureate degree essentials in the geriatric nursing, used widely throughout Latin America. In various leadership positions throughout her career, she leveraged opportunities to bring attention to substance use and related disorders to drive change through organizations, including the former president of the New York State Nursing Association, former national spokesperson on substance use disorder for the American Nurses Association, appointee to the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration expert panel on older adults living with serious mental illness, the National Quality Forum, and the National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, among others. Let us now hear more from Madeline's sponsors on her lasting contributions.
I first met Dr. Naegle in the early 1990s when she was the editor of the Journal of Addictions Nursing, and that was the journal where I had submitted my first manuscript. She developed that peer-reviewed journal for the International Nurses Society on Addictions to address a need for advancing education and policy initiatives for their primarily clinically focused membership. During her 11 years as editor, she stimulated more research in addictions nursing, and that groundbreaking journal remains the only one of its kind in the nursing and addictions field. Dr. Naegle and I continued to interact as members and leaders of the International Nurses Society on Addictions and the Association for Multidisciplinary Education and Research in Substance Use and Addiction, known as IMRSA. We continue to collaborate as active members of the Academy's Psychiatric Mental Health and Substance Use Expert Panel.
I've worked with Madeline over the years in the context of the Pan American Collaborating Centers for Nursing and in some cases the Center for Gerontology. We have been in many international meetings over the years, and we did a collaboration on one article sort of focusing on the need for partnerships and the importance of networking.
Dr. Naegle has been impactful at the local, national, and international levels. Her multiple roles at the New York State Nurses Association, now ANA New York, led to the development of a statewide peer assistance program for nurses. Thanks to her unwavering advocacy and her call to action in 1984 with the publication of her seminal monograph on promoting nurses' health, preserving nursing's precious resources, and protecting the public, 41 states in the District of Columbia have peer health programs for nurses. Dr. Naegle's contributions to international health have advanced nursing and healthcare globally. She was the Deputy Director of the Myers College World Health Organization Collaborating Center on Gerontological Nursing, the first center on aging designated in a school of nursing.
What has always impressed me is her, I would say, commitment and devotion to the nursing profession, and probably more importantly to the patients of which nurses serve. Madeline is a great role model in terms of consistency and reinforcement about how important caring is to the healing of many patients and their families when they're under a great deal of distress. Well, one thing I think I've noticed Madeline over the years, her flair for style is second to none. And I think in that way, she's all an inspiration to us, as well as her very strong professionalism. Combining the both, I think, is what I really admire her for.
Dr. Naegle has had an ongoing, sustained, and continuing influence on countless others within nursing and with interprofessional colleagues. As a clinician, leader, educator, nurse, researcher, and change agent, she has had an impactful and extraordinary career in advocating for a highly stigmatized and disenfranchised population, and for nurses who are similarly marginalized.
She's sort of an inspiration. I would imagine she's an inspiration to the nurses coming into the profession as well. Her vitae demonstrates tremendous productivity over the year, and I think a stick-to-itness in these really difficult areas. These are areas where patients are really suffering, and her commitment to teaching, helping students, actually helping patients as well with some of these difficult problems is really quite an inspiration.
Please join me in welcoming Dr. Madeline Naegle to the podium.
Thank you, President White, President-elect Dr. Scott, colleagues, friends, family members, and guests. Webster says a legend is a myth or a fable, accepted as folklore but unverifiable. Well, myth or fable, I am delighted to be here tonight to participate in the celebration of the 50th anniversary of the Academy. A catalytic organization for excellence in nursing education, policy, research, and practice. Selection for this award recognizes the importance of psychiatric nursing at a critical time. At a critical time. The rising rates of suicide, substance use disorders, and mental health problems in nurses and in others across the country speak to much work remaining. I am sincerely grateful and humbled by this award, grateful to the Academy, to the selection committee, to my sponsors, Andrea Bowman, Peggy Compton, and Deb Fennell, whom we just heard from. But my work has been enriched by exchange and collaboration with many people, especially my mental health, addictions, and global health colleagues, and my NYU and Penn collaborators. The partnering of many on the expert panel here at the Academy, the American Psychiatric Nurses Association, the International Nurses Society on Addictions, the American Nurses Association, and New York nurses, particularly at the Office of Addictions and Support Services, and leaders like Karen Ballard and Catherine Welch instilled the belief that collective action and unity are key to positive change. I've never felt that more than I believe that today. Deb mentioned I was founding director of the Collaborating Center at Myers, Center of Healthy Aging and Care of Older Adults, and I was inspired by the wealth of knowledge and collegiality that I found in the Pan-American network of nursing midwifery collaborating centers and their fabulous interdisciplinary networks, and globally. As a Fulbright scholar in 2 instances, I began to believe more strongly in the importance of nursing crossing boundaries to raise our voices and raise standards and reach consensus around the way nursing, and particularly psychiatric nursing, is practiced worldwide. When I expanded my work from aging to mental health in older adults, and now working globally, and as a volunteer with the International Council of Nursing, I am fulfilling a lifetime aspiration. My friend Barry Rustin said, "Every community needs a group of angelic troublemakers willing to speak out against injustice." A good number of those are in this room, and I want to give them a shout out right over here. And there are many more of you among us. They continue their work and our work to banish stigma, to promote the rights and equitable treatment of nurses and others with mental health and substance use disorders, and to increase access to evidence-based treatment. Tonight, we celebrate at long last the care of persons with substance use disorders as part of education and practice for comprehensive nursing care. And I would add new commitments by organized nursing to nurse well-being. So important. With gratitude, I want to note the guidance and friendship of our beloved Claire Fagan, a living legend par excellence. And yes, for many of us, our North Star. And my professional soul sisters, Susan Winikoff, Ellen Bayer, and Neville Strumpf. Many important friends and family members, like my brother Walter, Amanda and Ben McGowan, and dear friend Linda Bieber, are here in spirit. I'm sustained by and forever grateful for the love and support of my family, represented tonight, and it was a large family, but my sister Nona is here representing them. I'm forever grateful for that love and support, which have brought me to this celebration and this wonderful professional honor. Thank you all very much.
I feel like I'm up here with nursing royalty, sharing the stage with nursing royalty. Our final living legend to honor this evening is Dr. Adeline Nyamathi. Dr. Nyamathi is a groundbreaking scientist, educator, and advocate. Her dedication to reducing health inequities, improving health outcomes, and developing innovative models of care has elevated the quality of life for countless individuals around the globe. Dr. Nyamathi's commitment and compassion has been grounded in nursing science and the power of partnerships and how they can improve care locally and around the world. For over 3 decades, she has received continuous funding of over $40 million from the National Institutes of Health, wow, as principal investigator across 6 NIH institutes. She has led teams to develop effective and state-of-the-art interventions using community-based participative research methods to address significant health disparities with people living with or at risk for HIV/AIDS, TB, and hepatitis. One of Dr. Nyamathi's notable work was the partnership she created between community health workers and research nurses to deliver health promotion programs in the streets of Skid Row in Los Angeles, protecting the health of their participants from active TB, hepatitis A and B, or worsening sequelae of the hepatitis C virus. Her findings have influenced drug treatment programs and clinic hiring practices. Additionally, Dr. Nyamathi's research has led to an enhanced acceptance of vaccines, significant reduction of drug use and reincarceration at 1-year follow-up, and an increase in protective behaviors in the targeted populations. As a globally recognized leader, Dr. Nyamathi has led a multidisciplinary team, hiring and training nurse-led, accredited social health activists of village women in India to co-educate and support women living in the community with HIV/AIDS. The findings of her work demonstrated the importance of peer support, nutrition education, and supplementation in improving CD4, T-cell counts, and immune status among mothers and their children. After her team's successful outcomes were presented to local medical research institutes and Indian government officials, discussions followed about the need to financially support the nutrition of people living with HIV/AIDS. Dr. Nyamathi's research in India is shedding light on the need for cervical cancer screening among area women living with HIV/AIDS. As founding dean of the University of California, Irvine, Sue and Bill Gross School of Nursing, her focus on building the research enterprise led to quadrupling research funding and improving the nursing school's National Institute of Health ranking by 20 points. Prior to joining UCI, she served in various leadership positions at the University of California, Los Angeles. Her awards and recognitions include the Distinguished Alumni Award from Case Western Reserve University, first nurse elected as vice chairperson of the Specialty Committee of Nursing of the World Federation of Chinese Medicine Societies, and visiting professor, Hunan Provincial Tumor Hospital and Zhengjia School of Medicine, Central South University. She was inducted into the Sigma Theta Tau International Nurse Researcher Hall of Fame. It is time to hear from Addie's sponsors on her incredible impacts. Excuse me.
I met Adeline Nyamathi in the mid-1980s when she moved from Case Western Reserve, where she had finished her PhD several years before, and came to live in Southern California with her husband and toddler. She interviewed with me for a professor position at UCLA School of Nursing, and I couldn't help but notice that she was pregnant, so she was clearly going to be very busy as a new assistant professor. But of course, she's incredibly impressive, both in her resume and in her own physical presence. And so we were delighted to offer her a position. And so she and I taught together for the next 14 years at UCLA, often sharing courses, and I really credited Addie with the kinds of positive evaluations our courses got. She's a really inspired teacher. Addie has a very active family life, 3 children and now grandchildren, and she's very dedicated to her family. But at the same time, she's also been able to have an extraordinary career, more than 3 decades of uninterrupted NIH funding for very large clinical trials. She's a really excellent nurse and very committed to the profession. So I think both from a personal and professional standpoint, she has always served as an inspiration to me. One of the things that stands out about Addie is her commitment to the populations that we often identify in healthcare as the underserved, or the people that bring and display the most disparities in healthcare. She really has worked with the most needy in our population, and has shown through her research that nurses can have a tremendous impact on reducing those disparities. Addie brings a lot of perseverance and determination to everything. She is a first-generation college graduate in her family, and I think that has inspired, it certainly has inspired many of her students and mentees, but it also has inspired her to bring a work ethic that is really extraordinary. And I guess the story that I always think of is when California experienced in 1994 a tremendous earthquake, and all of us were dealing with lack of electricity and refrigerators and phones and everything that didn't work. And UCLA then announced that it was going to continue its classes just within a few days. So Addie and I were teaching a course together, and she was going to do the next lecture. When we got to the school, and there were the students, nurses, they all showed up and took notes. I asked Addie how she was managing, and she said, well, she had prepared her lecture by flashlight. And that's a picture I always have of Addie. Under any circumstance, she remains cool and always meets her commitments, always just seems to be unperturbed by whatever happens in life, even above a 7.0 earthquake. One of the things that was remarkable about Addie is setting up a partnership with a historically Black college in Los Angeles and developing programs that supported nurses to follow their PhDs at UC Irvine. And I just think that this is going to have a tremendous impact on nursing and the ability of nurses to become more representative of the population we care for. And so she was just an extraordinary person in terms of both role modeling for her faculty, students, and for the campus, what the extraordinary impact of nursing through the kinds of research that she personally did, and then that she encouraged and supported her faculty to do. So I think, her gifts to UC Irvine have been really wonderful. She is building a new school and has set a tradition that will be, I think, difficult for the now current dean to follow, but also is an extraordinary gift to nursing, especially on the West Coast.
Please join me in welcoming Dr. Addie Nyamathi to the podium.
Thank you all so very much. I want to thank the Academy for bestowing this amazing award. It's a significant milestone in my career. I was so impressed by my peers on the stage as well. And while we have faced such significant challenges in our world, I'm just humbled by hearing the stories that all of you have portrayed, and the ability to grasp such new opportunities in order to make a difference in creating a resilient, equitable, and sustainable world. So thank you all so very much. I wanted to share with all of you that what Kathy Dracob talked about is a passion that I have been so lucky to have in my life, that is the ability to work with populations who are hidden, populations who need the support of nurses, and nurses are really the only ones who truly understand when they engage the community. For example, community health workers that work directly with nurses, they can make such an amazing difference. And this has happened in Los Angeles, as well as in India, where women that have walked in the shoes of the people that we serve are truly the ones that make a difference. And nurses need to partner with them to truly move the needle on the issues that are at hand. I wish to thank amazing scientists who nominated me, for Kathy Dracob, who, as she mentioned, we've worked with for so many years together, Dr. Cognac Griffin, and both of them, unfortunately, are not here today, but definitely are in my heart. Dr. Vlahov, thank you so much from Yale University for being so gracious, and all of them for their unwavering support. I will be forever grateful for all of that. I want to thank my dean, Dean Lazenby, who is actually doing quite well as the new dean of UC Sue and Bill Gross School of Nursing, who encouraged me to actually apply for this award. And it was definitely something I did not have in mind, but I am grateful for that and grateful for the encouragement. For my faculty that are here, thank you so much. Being the founding dean at UCI has been such an amazing opportunity for me. And the faculty, many of you that are here today, have really developed the foundation of the school that I came to lead. And it's been an amazing support for me. I also want to thank my colleague from UCLA who's here, Dr. Benice Salem. Thank you for your years and years of service that we've had together. It's been so fun doing research together with you. I also wanted to mention, I was sharing with my Case Western Reserve friends that my beginnings actually in working with people experiencing homelessness came from an opportunity when I was just beginning as an assistant professor at Case Western at the Francis Bain Poulton School of Nursing, going on a community health opportunity experience with students and seeing a woman who had just delivered a baby a week before, had no furniture, no refrigerator, but had a very young baby at home, and just thinking about what her life was going to be like to raise a child in that kind of environment really led me to think about what can I do to change the lives of people. So that was the beginning of my 4 decades of work that have been done with people experiencing homelessness, people experiencing incarceration, et cetera. And I'm forever grateful to Case Western for providing me that opportunity. I also want to thank my husband, Dr. Ishwar Nyamathi, for encouraging me gently to go into the PhD program. It was not something that I ever really had in mind. I was a nurse practitioner. I hadn't actually had a license in Ohio yet because we had just gotten married and moved out here. But because I was devastated that he was at the Cleveland Clinic in training and I had never seen him except for once a week, he said, "This is a good time for you to think about the PhD." So when and there's Dr. Nyamathi standing up. Thank you so much, my dear. And I have to say that I am grateful to my family for the encouragement and support. And I'm going to end now with the words of a 26-year-old Black female astrophysicist who happens to be at UCI. Her name is Dr. Emoma Shields, and I'm going to quote what she says. "Dreams have no expiration date, and there is no one way to be a scientist. So to all the scientists that are out there in front of me, I hope that you will find your path or continue your path and change the world." Thank you.
Please help us celebrate our newest American Academy of Nursing's Living Legends.
Their work demonstrates the passion, commitment, and ingenuity of the nursing profession. Their contributions and the dedication that they have to the health of the public remind us of all the power that is in each one of us to strive for a better tomorrow.
It's been an honor for Linda and me to be with you this evening. These titans and royalty within our profession demonstrate the intelligence and humility that has opened doors and pierced glass ceilings. And one theme that I noted throughout all six are two words: purpose and passion. Purpose and passion. We are grateful for your purpose and your passion, and we are grateful for your boldness and your bravery. Thank you. Before we close, we would be honored if all the living legends could make your way to the stage for a special photo. Your contributions and impact on our lives have been truly remarkable, and we want to capture this momentous occasion together on this, our 50th anniversary. Please join us on stage for a group photo that will forever celebrate your incredible legacies. Thank you for gracing us tonight with your presence and for inspiring us all. Thank you all for joining us tonight to celebrate our 2023 American Academy of Nursing's Living Legends. Linda and I are still standing, and we hope to see you again tomorrow night.